Baseball is so back. After an electric postseason that featured a lot of great games and even better performances, the MLB awards were handed out. The MVP and Cy Young awards were pretty chalk, so Kyle and I wanted to get together and give out some alternative awards. We talked about things like who was the main character of the season and which batter had the hottest hot streak. Let's get into it. Alrighty, baseball is over for the year, and honestly, what a great baseball season overall it was. I feel like it was so much fun to watch. We've already talked about it plenty of times on the pod before this, but between the regular season, the season leading up to the playoffs, and all the playoff seeding, and then just the postseason itself was extremely exciting. I don't think either of us would call ourselves Dodgers fans, but so maybe the outcome not exactly what we were hoping, but still really exciting. We wanted to take some time right now and do some like alternative MLB awards looking back at the end of the season because, well, first, the MLB end of season awards look like they're going to be pretty chalk. I think there's 4 favorites. 3 of them are going to be repeats from last year, being Skubal for the AL Cy Young, Ohtani and Judge for the 2 MVPs, and then the NL Cy Young is almost certainly going to be Paul Skeens, who was one of the favorites for the Cy Young last year. So it's like, wouldn't be very exciting to talk about the actual awards. So
is Aaron Judge really the favorite by that much now? After
yeah, I'm pretty sure he's far and away the favorite.
It was so close for a while there, especially when Cal got like to 60. But yeah,
there was some narrative there. 60 is a nice round number, so maybe you never know. But Judge's, I think, just overall body of work, and
yeah.
If you look in like Baseball Reference and look by like WAR leaders and basically all the hitting leaders, it's just it's just a wall of Judge, even with the season like Ohtani and Cal had. Anyway, so we wanted to do some like alternative awards and go through just to highlight some of the moments from the past year, and maybe some of the stuff that these weren't the top 4 players in the sport, but or top 4 like things that happen in the sport, but baseball's a long season. A lot of cool things happen. So that's what we wanted to do. Alrighty, Kyle. First, we're going to do biggest riser and biggest faller of the season. And I'll let you kick it off. Who do you got?
Sweet. Yeah, this one, I was trying to think of a player. It felt like, especially down the stretch there was a lot of players that got a ton of headlines and it felt like really saturated with like at the very top. And you didn't hear a lot, especially when I started tuning in to the MLB season was in like September, to be honest, like our August, September range is when I really start tapping in. And so I wanted to find a player that, maybe had a better start to the season and maybe fell off, but nonetheless, like deserves some flowers for still putting together a good body of work for the season and having like, almost like I kind of thought of this as most improved a little bit. But yeah. So for me, it was Pete Crow Armstrong from the Cubbies.
Yeah.
Which admittedly did not watch a ton of Cubs games. National League team, I'm not as tapped in over there, but he got the Golden Glove he's a center fielder for the Cubs this year. He had a good season last year, and he's like 23 years old or something. And anyways, he batted like 250. He averaged 250. And he was exactly what I was looking for. He was a player that started the season off super duper well. He was batting like 300 for a while there. And the Cubs looked great for a minute and then kind of started falling off. And then I actually don't remember hearing a ton about him in the playoffs. And like I said, I mean, you heard a lot about a lot of the other players in the playoffs, but not so much some of these guys that still had a really solid season, but you just didn't see.
Yeah, I think first half of the season, he was arguably the MVP in the National League, but just combined one of the best fielders, one of the fastest and just most effective center fielders in the entire sport, much less the NL. And then, I think he had a pretty significant fall off. I think just he's a free swinging hitter and doesn't take a lot of balls. And, you can be hot for a long time. And he was hot for a very long time. He's hot for almost half the season. And then, admittedly really did fall off. And I think that's part of why, like you said, in the playoffs, he didn't have as much of a role. And the Cubs, I think also they slowed down a little bit near the end as well. I mean, I would have said the Cubs were the number 1 offense in baseball in like June or so, and then not the case in September, October. But as far as riser from expectations to start the season to what we will now expect from him to go to the next season, PCA was one of the best, the highest risers. And I think another guy who similarly has like hey, now where our expectations of you are as high as possible is Arizona's shortstop, Gerardo Perdomo. Um, he very quietly finished as the number 7th player in WAR, wins above replacement, and he basically jumped in every meaningful batting category while still remaining one of the most solid and consistent defensive shortstops there is. I think he played basically every game at shortstop, which is super notable. In a didn't take any days off and was super solid defensively. Never found any reason to bench him. And yeah, he jumped in batting average from 273 to 290, jumped in slugging percentage from 374 to 462. And again, just like very quietly, was actually this was one of the best Arizona Diamondbacks seasons in the franchise history. Admittedly, it's like a relatively shorter lived franchise. But he was, this is the third best season of any Arizona Diamondback WAR wise. It was tied for second for just offensive WAR. So again, like overall, he's always been a very consistent hitter, but I think this year he really turned on the power and increased his hard hit percentage from about 26% last year to 32%. And yeah, it turned into home runs. And like, the Arizona Diamondbacks they were sellers at the deadline. They, Cattell suffered a bunch of injuries. They lost Suarez, they lost Naylor, both to Seattle. And he was like he turned into the mainstay of the Diamondbacks hitters. I think he started as the 9 hitter at the start of the season, and he was batting cleanup by the end. So he was my biggest riser. But who'd you have for Faller?
That's an awesome pick. Just quickly, because the same exact reason is sort of my mindset with like trying to pick a guy that was. I mean, the Cubs honestly ended up having a really solid season, but the Diamondbacks are a good team to pick because you don't hear a ton about them, especially near the end there. Like you said, they were sellers at the deadline. So yeah, looking at the Faller, I tried not to be a total jerk here and pick a player, and I actually picked a team. So a little bit, I'm not being a little bit nicer, and I went with the Houston Astros. Because they were a team that I remember, like right when that playoff hunt was happening, it felt like they were kind of shoo-ins for a while there on the American League side. And then especially it felt like, them versus the Guardians for a while, and they were going to edge out the Guardians in record. And then what ended up, how the AL Central flipped, and the Tigers ended up in the wild card spot, and there ended up being a head-to-head, and they tied for record, and the Tigers had the head-to-head. So then they ended up making it over them, and really just the whole Astros season. I mean, it would have just been brutal to be an Astros fan, specifically with this season in isolation, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm an Astros fan. It was an injury-ridden season, I think, is like the best way I can put it. There was times where we felt like we were fielding like a team of guys who had just been in AAA, essentially. And I think it's good. I think a lot of the prospects that we called up, there's some exciting stuff to see there. And Hunter Brown turned in from a great pitcher to one of the league's best pitchers. And so there's a lot of exciting moments, but the playoff collapse and not making the playoffs, I think, really hurts. Especially we have been such a playoff contender for the past decade, give or take. So I think it's
it was really Yordan Alvarez was like that was the big hit, right? And that happened in September. I remember when that happened, and it really felt like that was sort of the changing of the tune.
And he didn't really play for most of the first half of the season anyway because of the calf stuff. So it's like he never really got going. And then even when we were like, oh, he's back, then he's gone again. And what can you do? I think it's a fair pick. I think it's a fair pick. And I also picked a team. That's funny. I also didn't want to, just single out a guy. And I had the Atlanta Braves. Another one of those teams that has been a playoff contender for, not even just a playoff contender. They won the World Series very recently, 2021. And man, just a season. It's hard because I don't even, you could call it a season from hell, but like they weren't even dealing with that many injuries. Like Acuna came back from his injury and looked great. Matt Olson played almost every game. Austin Riley played. He didn't play that not every game, but Ozuna, who was like a top 5 finisher in MVP last year, played a lot of games. Like it was a serious injury. I think there's just no two ways to put it other than that. It just like they couldn't hit the ball. They couldn't like put a bunch of good innings together of hitting, and it was one of the more disappointing seasons I've ever seen from a team. And they went from the contender of their division, like the leader, in preseason expectations, to basically just like giving up the season with like 20 games to go. They're in a very hard division, but yeah, baseball watching experience with them, and I think they lost to the Rockies the game we watched, and
Oof.
it was just a bummer. It was just a bummer of a day.
Yeah, I felt like they were never really in the hunt, even though I mean they finished close to
Never.
500, but like at no point were you like, man, they really might end up like making a playoff run here. From the very beginning, it was all downhill, and I think it's probably because the expectations were so high. Yeah,
I think that's exactly it. Yeah, when it's a team of that caliber that has been good for so long,
right.
or at least recent memory, and you're not almost immediately. It's like, yeah. Already, one of the most notable things about baseball is how hot guys can get. So we wanted to give an award for the hottest hot streak that we saw this season. I have a bunch here just because baseball is so much fun and guys like turn into the best player in the world for like a few games. But I wanted to hear about your picks here before I go.
Yeah, this one I was really tempted to also pick a team and go with the Guardians at the at the end there. I mean, their run was actually miraculous, and winning like 18 of 20 games or something for down the stretch while the Tigers were losing, and that was so exciting as a Guardians fan. And so like that was, as a team, a super hot streak that we went on, which was really, really cool. But from a player perspective, I mean, it's not even really an immediate streak, although near the end he really turned it on. And this one I am going to go with one of those guys that was talked about a bunch. And for me, it's Cal Raleigh. Just like actually turned it on at the end there and was hitting so well. Even in the playoffs, I mean, he was slugging really well. He wasn't, he was striking out a good bit, but I mean, he ended up having, I think, 5 home runs in the postseason as a whole.
The ball was still going far. Yeah.
The ball was still getting banged. And I mean, it's been said so much, but like doing that while also being in a squat for, an hour, a couple hours every night, it's like, dude, it's really impressive. And so just like his whole season, but it's specifically at the end there for the Mariners to make that run. And I mean, for him to even turn it on, not only in the regular season, but then to follow it up, it feels like we talk almost every year about some guy like Aaron Judge last year and then going to the World Series and kind of laying an egg. It feels a lot of times like there's a player who had an awesome regular season and then just can't get it going in the postseason. And it felt like he was just hot for a really long time there.
Yeah, I feel like Cal's season was one of those ones that you could have given a lot of these awards to. Like biggest riser of the season could have been Cal. Hottest hot streak could have been Cal. We have one later for like main character of the season. You could have very reasonably given that to Cal. Like this was a lot of ways it turned into his season. And then, yeah, he followed it up with like, I won't say an incredible postseason, and obviously not the team result that he was, looking for, but a good postseason, absolutely. Okay, a few kind of hot streaks I wanted to highlight. The most, I think, obvious one of like just a very small sample size was Nick Kurtz, the Athletics rookie, when in that one game he had 4 home runs and 6 hits for 19 total bases, and it was basically like one of, if not the best batting performance of all time. So when you're thinking about like a hot streak inside of a game, it was basically like he couldn't miss and he sent every ball really far. So that's I think an easy one. And honestly, like it wasn't just a fluke. He had a lot of great hot streaks. I think he ended up hitting like 30 home runs or something. He came up like midway through the season.
He had, I think, the highest OPS for a rookie since like, it's like him, Judge, and Pujols are like the 3 highest in the last 30 years or something. So it's like really good company. Super hot.
It's super special. He came in with a lot of pedigree as a prospect and has probably done more than live up to it, I'd say. So exciting. And honestly, we'll talk about this a little more later with like our small market spotlight, but the Athletics generally just have a good core of young players that's really exciting. A few other ones I wanted to highlight. I'll just kind of go quickly through these. Andres Munoz was the closer for Seattle, and he started 2025 season with 15 straight appearances of not letting anyone score on him, including 7 of those saves. And it was just like he was...
What? I didn't know. That's crazy.
He was like perfect for like basically 15 straight. And then even... So it's just super hot. And even when people did get on him eventually, like he still was one of the best relievers. But yeah, sometimes just relievers have a season where they just throw flames. And Munoz was definitely one of the best this year. There was the Marlins catcher, Augustin Ramirez. He was called up from AAA about 20 games into the season, and through his first 5 games, in the majors, not even just like called up midseason. I think they had like an injury or something. He had 22 total bases across those first 5 games. The first time he'd ever seen major league pitching. He had 9 hits, 3 home runs, and also stole a base. So like, just kind of the dream start. He had a great season overall. I think he'll be solidly in the Marlins rotation and probably their main catcher next season, if I had to guess. And he's got a lot of talent, but those first 5 games, it just felt like he couldn't miss the ball. And I remember being like, so who is this guy? Last guy I'll highlight is Jorge Polanco, the Seattle second baseman. There was a stretch at the end of April where across 5 games, he had a 2.278 OPS, which, in case, just for reference, Aaron Judge's OPS this season, one of the best hitting seasons in modern era, was like 1.1 or something like that. So double the hitter that Judge was across these 5 games. And he had 25 total bases. He hit the ball 8 times, and 5 of those were home runs. So again, small sample sizes here. What makes a great baseball player is doing this consistently over the entire season. But these guys are all extremely talented, and if they're just like hot, seeing the ball well, feeling their swing well, like they can turn into just like crushers. So we wanted to kind of highlight those, and that's those are my picks. Alrighty, next category would be the that was this year award. Basically, like what was something that happened this year that now that we've been thinking about the playoffs and the Blue Jays and the Dodgers and the Mariners, like there were storylines being written in April that we probably forgot about. So what was one of those storylines for you?
I think you mentioned one of the big ones earlier with the Braves. I feel like that was all the buzz before the season, and then just totally not a peep from them more recently. But for me, this was this year. Yeah. That was this year. Was the Yankees having a meltdown in the middle of the season? I don't know if you remember this. It was like when Aaron Judge kind of got hurt. He had a sprained wrist or something, and he didn't play for like 10 games. They went. I was trying to find like the worst record that they had when this was happening, because I just remember it being like a big talk about how like the Yankees are going to miss the playoffs and like blah blah blah. They went 25-27, so just under 500 through June and July. But like the way that it was being cast was like that they didn't win a single game during that time period. That was so coming off of May, they looked like one of the best teams in baseball. They were 17-9 in May. And so I think coming off of that, and then with Judge getting hurt, there was like this discussion about whether the Yankees were still going to be able to make a good push, and it felt like that. And now I looked back on that, like going into the playoffs and everything, and they made like a good run, and they looked like a solid team with decent contender. And it was just like funny thinking back on that time period when it was like that felt like it was the end.
I do remember it being a thing because Judge is a pretty good outfielder, but not the best. And then he had hurt his wrist, and like they were like, is he going to play outfield again, or is he just going to DH? And then Giancarlo Stanton is their maiden DH, and he really can't play outfield. He's a bad outfielder. And so they were just in turmoil for a little bit there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a good one.
Yeah, they ended up tying. Sorry, I looked up their record. They ended up they ended at 94-68. They tied the Blue Jays for a regular season record. And like it felt like the narrative was like just not that at all. Like the Blue Jays narrative was like, this team is awesome. And yet the Yankees, it was like, oh my gosh, this is horror. Like we're being tortured.
We've talked about this before, but it's just the difference in New York fans, especially Yankees fans, and expectations. And like, I mean, they truly do expect to win the championship every year. Whereas so many other teams, like I think even think like Mariners fans, they've never been even to the World Series. Like just like being in the ALCS this year was just like, oh my gosh. Whereas last year, the Yankees, got beat pretty bad by the Dodgers in the World Series, and it felt like a travesty.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right. I had 2 here. Both Shane Bieber and Blake Snell started the year on IL, on the injury list, which now with the postseason just having finished, and we watched Shane Bieber as one of the final pitchers, I think the final pitcher for Toronto in the postseason, and also Blake Snell in that same game, and one of the final pitchers in the series. It's just weird to think that like the season started with both of those guys. Actually, Snell didn't start the year on IL, but very quickly went on to it. Like it's crazy to think about both those guys like didn't really play baseball until like August, September maybe. So interesting. And the other one was the Detroit Tigers started the year as basically the number one team. And you mentioned already, it looked like Cleveland was going to get past them. They did. The Tigers still ended up in the wild card spot and beat Cleveland. And the Tigers season didn't end terribly, but it did not end as the number one team. Absolutely, it didn't. And if I think they had the best record, not even just like through the first 10 games. I think it was through like the first 40 games, like a significant enough sample size that people were like, oh, what did we miss analyzing this Tigers team? And yeah, it kind of ultimately ended up being a little bit of a mirage, not a full mirage, but a little bit.
They're just hot and cold, just a streaky team. And they kind of turned it on at the end there. I think, man, that the Mariners Tigers series, that's one of those series that I just wish was a 7-game series. I wish they would do it for all of the, like, fine, you can do the wild card, have that one be 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, but man, that 5th game was so cool. It was such a fun watch, and like the whole time I was watching it, I was just like, they should play 2 more games.
I know. Yeah. Sad to see that Scooble wasn't able to go farther because he was just so awesome. Of course, this whole season, but the postseason especially.
Yeah.
Alrighty, main character and villain of the season. Who was your? I guess we'll start with villain. Actually, I'm very curious about this one. Who was your villain of the season or villain team?
This one I put not a ton of effort into because for me, I don't know. I feel like in baseball, like sure, there's especially I think back when everything was going on with pitching and there was a bunch of talks about people using pine tar or something like that. Like that was easy to pick out a player as a villain. Sure. And similarly with like sign stealing and stuff like that, that was sort of where my head was going
for a little bit there. Yeah,
sure, for a little bit there, definitely. But it didn't feel like, I don't know, like in the other years, it's like very obvious and clear. And this year, I don't know, I didn't really. There wasn't one particular player. So for me, the villain of the season was capitalism and the way that the MLB money works. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we move into the small market, our favorite small market teams. But yeah, I just think like having the Dodgers and even the Blue Jays, who were right up there. I think they were 4th or 5th in payroll this year, and for like the next year too. It's like, it just felt it put such a sour taste in my mouth, and it's an easy cop out. It is, but at the end of the day, like money talks, and it just felt like this season it got pushed way more, especially with everything with the Mets and Juan Soto and like that whole thing, and it just I felt like it was a lot bigger of a role this year.
I got to take to run past you for my villain. I kind of think the villain of the season was the New York Mets, and I'll tell you why. I think they do have the highest payroll. They also have the biggest contract with Juan Soto, and they were the main offseason story. Juan Soto was already a little bit of a villainous player. Like he kind of taunts you when he's batting, like all that kind of stuff. I do like Juan Soto, but I think I like him as a villain. And they even had like the villainous arc where for like the first half of the season, they were the number one team, like, across the board. Their pitching was overperforming. The bats were doing great. And by the end, it was basically just kind of like a slow, very painful decline. And by the end, they were like, quote unquote, vanquished.
Mm-hmm. So you're styling it as if it was a movie. You're
sure. That's in my head. I'm like, and it's hard because I probably wasn't even really rooting against the Mets, but I like a lot of their players. I love Francisco Lindor. And it's hard because they're like the little brother team to the Yankees in a lot of ways. So it's like, how can you really hate them? But they have the biggest payroll and they didn't even make the playoffs with it. And that, to your capitalism point, that's like the worst of both worlds. It's like, if you're going to spend the money, might as well, like, I don't know, be the Dodgers and do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, Juan Soto he's gotten better. I'm starting to almost like him, which is crazy to say because I think he's one of the worst fielders in the league, to be honest. I think he is really, really bad and kind of a liability in right field. But he's just phenomenal with the bat. And the thing is, though, you brought it up a little bit, like how he has, like, he'll do his like swagger step or whatever. He used to do it a lot more earlier in his career. He's kind of
he used to do it all the time,
dude. He's kind of stopped doing it, and I feel like maybe, I don't know, he's had some like realizations
He's
about
like
it.
24 now or 25. So
yeah, he's grown up. He's grown up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Again, it's a little bit like, the Cleveland Browns in the NFL have been one of the highest paying teams. Not to go on to Cleveland too much, but they've been one of the highest payroll teams and just like highest spenders over the past 5 years and have been bad. And I don't know if anybody would ever call the Cleveland Browns the villains of the NFL.
I would.
But sure, they might be the villains of your NFL watching experience, and I think that's reasonable. Some of the things they do some of the decisions they make are villainous, absolutely. So I don't know if I really believe this take, but I wanted to test run it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, main character of the season, protagonist of the season. Who do you have?
Right. So this one, I guess I'll just go straight. I had an American League and a National League pick,
Cool.
but I'm just gonna morph it into one. I think the only player I want to talk about here, because I don't think I talk about him at all for the rest of it, is Shohei. And I mean, what hasn't been said about him, but it really just felt, man, like this season was his. And I mean, even from the start, like with the whole whirlwind of the gambling scandal, with the gambling scandal with his buddy, his interpreter. Like that was that happened at the beginning. Like it was kind of last season, but even at the beginning of this season, I think there was like the actual like court hearings were happening, and so it still felt like that was at the front of like the baseball.
He's in the headlines. Yeah,
he's in the headlines for sure. And I mean, he's got an entire country behind him that like like nobody does. Dude, it's crazy. It's like he's like the head of state, and sometimes I feel like he's got more power. Like if he wanted to run to be the leader of Japan, I'm sure like
we couldn't stop it. No. And he even like used that power. Like one of the biggest offseason stories was where Roki Sasaki was going to sign, and I don't want to say like Shohei Ohtani like used his powers or anything, but like he definitely like talked to Roki and made him feel comfortable about going to the Dodgers, which is very fair. I mean, he's gonna have a countryman there and someone he's familiar with and all that kind of stuff. But like even then, it was like, hey, this biggest offseason signing of the offseason, Shohei is like he's still got some influence.
He's somewhat involved in. Yeah, it felt that way. And then I mean, obviously, what happened in the World Series, like Game 3, him getting to base 9 times, and then the National League game where he obviously had the ridiculous 4 home runs game. And I think like doing all that while, right, like I said, with the gambling scandal, and also still like kind of recovering from injury from elbow surgery that he'd had, and like pitching through that. And I mean, there was always yeah, I mean, he hit 100. I was in the World Series, which I was like, dude, what? He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries and he's throwing 100 miles an hour.
And it looks great.
What?
Yeah. Okay, so that was NL main character. What about AL?
AL, it's Cal. I don't want to say anything more about it, but it felt like that was the pick. I don't know. You go ahead. I'll see what you guys say.
I didn't have anything different. We can jump right by it. I do think the main character was Cal. And, he I don't think he'll win the MVP. But like the fact that someone could have challenged Aaron Judge's season, and it was a catcher who at the start of the season most people probably didn't know his name, and now like it passes the whole thing of like the average person who knows nothing about baseball knows now who Cal Raleigh is, which is crazy. And
for sure.
And baseball hasn't had many people like that are kind of like transcendent. And Cal this season was kind of on that tier. Already very from Moneyball. How can you not be romantic about baseball? What was your award for the moment that most made you feel like that? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, Brad Pitt's magnum opus.
Right.
Dude, for me, Clayton Kershaw, his cameo in the 2025 World Series was awesome. It was so cool. I have so much recency bias as I was going through all of this. I understand that it's like a season award, but I don't know. It's hard not to.
The postseason is more romantic.
For sure.
Yeah, it just is. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were texting about, I don't even remember what game it was, but like hitting was a walk-off homer, and I think it was you said that there's like no bigger aura that you can have than hitting a walk-off in the MLB.
Yeah, and Freddie Freeman's done it in the postseason like 3 times.
Gosh, he's the man. He is the man. But yeah, anyways, back to Kershaw. It was in Game 3 of the World Series. He came in during extra innings, bases loaded, just like such a high drama setting. He gets to a full count, and right, like with bases loaded, and somehow gets out of it in the top of the 12th. It was just a really, really cool moment, and for that to be his last game and his last pitch, it's just awesome.
Well, and I know like he has a storied postseason career of a lot of famous failures. Like he has famously been one of the best pitchers in baseball and one of the worst postseason pitchers in baseball.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, I remember they put up
I'm
the graphic while that was happening, and his ERA was like 5 or something. I was like, really?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of
this guy, yeah.
surprising.
I'm sure Dodgers fans were holding their breath, like
Yeah.
because he's such a beloved pitcher for the franchise. Like, is this really guy? Is this guy going to be the one who ends this game that we're all so excited to be at? It's like, yeah, you said the top of the 12th, like, and then he was able to get it done, and then they yank him, and then he wins. So he wins his ring again. So I think it's a good one. The one that went for me was the Red Sox. They dealt with a bunch of injuries to their pitching staff this year, so they honestly called up a bunch of they were kind of rotating through pitchers. And one guy that they pulled up, his name is Peyton Tolley. I think I have the pronunciation right, but Peyton Tolley started the year in Single A, so lowest division of minor league baseball. And then in August, right at the end of August, video surfaced. It was one of those classic the manager calls the guy into the room, into his office, and he's like, "Hey, how would you?" He tells him he's going to pitch. That he's getting called up and he's going to pitch, and so just those are always cool. Like,
Yeah.
they're meant to be tearjerkers, and they always are every time. It's cool to see the guys react to how much work they've put in and all that kind of stuff. He was also pitching against Paul Skeens. It was Red Sox Pirates, so that's cool. Like, you get to have your pitching duel against someone who is one of the 3 best pitchers in baseball, and also kind of a young guy who came up out of nowhere to being so great. And then they were interviewing Peyton's dad during it, and you could just tell how proud he was of his son, that kind of stuff. And during the interview, Roman Anthony, who's also a Red Sox rookie, hit a home run, and it's just so sweet to watch him. Like, you can see Peyton's dad get so excited about the home run that's happening. You can see the ball go fast, and then Peyton's start, I think, was good but not great. But I do think the Red Sox won the game, and so just a classic. How can you not be romantic about baseball moment? It's this guy. He's worked for so long, and then he goes to this game. His dad's there, and his mom had passed away from cancer the year prior. So there's just it was a wonderful
it's a cool story.
All of emotions there.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for him. It's nice to see. It's nice to see some human moments. That's why we like sports.
Yeah. The other that brings up. Actually, I feel like I got to talk about it. Ellie De La Cruz, Reds player. He had a similar, not a similar moment, but a really cool moment where he hit a home run. It was, I think, the day after his older sister had passed away. I don't know the details of any of it. And he just he hits a homer the day after. He somehow plays. First of all, it's such an easy one to sit out, go spend time with family. But ends up playing, hits a homer, and does he points his hand to the sky and a show of respect. And that was one of those moments where it was that's awesome.
Yeah, I think baseball is good for that. There's a lot of moments to pause during the game, just with the natural flow of it, and so it's kind of good for those human moments.
Yep.
Alrighty. Small market spotlight. We've kind of hinted at this a little bit. I'll go quick on mine. I think it was just the Athletics, and it's funny to even call this one a market because they technically are of no team or as of no location right now. If they go to Las Vegas is not a small market. And will be honestly less I feel like the A's have always been that scrappy team. Maybe it's just my Moneyball, I'm just thinking about Moneyball, but they've always been in my head, that scrappy team that is in the same state as the Giants and the Dodgers, and I guess the Padres don't really fit into that, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have no team or no location for their team. They're playing in a minor league ballpark. It's just one of those weird baseball situations that really only happens in baseball of all the major American sports. And I just want to spotlight them because they have a lot of really cool rookies between Jacob Wilson and Kurtz and their catcher Langoliers. They have a few exciting pitchers like Morales. And so I'm looking forward to them. I hope they can kind of figure this out and that their fans don't abandon them. But I also understand that this has been a lot of weird management stuff. And so we'll kind of see how it shakes out. But I wanted to highlight them for at least while they're small for now.
Yeah, they are small for now. And I mean, they really, I got to say, I mean, I wasn't shining a lot of spotlights on them this season. They definitely didn't.
It wasn't a great season.
No.
But it was enough to see the talent of some of the guys who were there.
Yeah.
They have two
Yeah.
guys, much less one.
Yeah. So my pick is the Brewers, and this one it felt like they were fighting the man, so to speak. Their bullpen was just so fun to watch. Bizarowski is awesome, super cool to see some kid throwing like his fastball average is 100. It's stupid.
If he throws non-triple digits, you're kind of like,
like
oh, what happened there? Yeah.
And it just feels like the Brewers have a really good, I don't know, they're really good at building players up, and they've got good management. It's just an exciting time to be a Brewers fan. And honestly, their team's like young, man, like Terang, Frelick, Durbin. I guess like Yelich is a bit older, but I mean, dude, he looks great. It doesn't feel like he's slowing down.
Right. He's like their vet, and he's like, what, 30?
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. I'm just excited for the whole team. I think it's gonna be awesome, and for them to be. I mean, yeah, they're at the bottom of that list, right with the Athletics. I think they're down there for sure
in the payroll. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Totally. Okay, I have a most. This is our word for like the most ridiculous stat of the season. One really jumped out to me here, which was Trevor Rogers for the Orioles. So Trevor Rogers was a pitcher. He had a lot of hype when he came in. He was, I think, second or third in Rookie of the Year voting. I want to say 2021, and I think it was with Miami. And then he kind of languished after that. I think he had an injury, and then he was traded to Baltimore, and he was terrible in 2024. He had like 4 games, and it was just a terrible pitcher. And they sent him to AAA. It was like, this guy is just a non-starter.
Yeah.
The Orioles were having a weird year this season. They had a few guys that were just out on injury, like Grayson Rodriguez. Anyway, Trevor Rogers was tearing up the minor leagues. They called him up with about half the season to go. It was after the All-Star break. And during those 18 games that he pitched for Baltimore, he put up 5.5 wins above replacement. His ERA was 1 point. Sorry, I lost it. His ERA was 1.73. And he, against him, the batting average was 1.94. To put all those things into context, the pitching leader for WAR for the entire season, and a WAR is a cumulative stat, so the more you play, if you're good, you will just accumulate it, was Christopher Sanchez with 8.0. Again, Trevor Rogers had 5.5 in half of the season. So not saying he would have kept the pace, but if he had kept the pace, it would have been 11 WAR on the season. And the major league leader in ERA was Paul Skeens at 1.97. Trevor Rogers in his half season was 1.73, like significantly better than Paul Skeens. Everybody else was over 2. It truly was like the hottest streak of a pitcher that I have probably ever seen that I could not explain to you. There was a few things that he like tweaked from his previous pitching. He used to really dominate with the fastball. That was like the thing that he did. He's a lefty. And then he learned to throw the sinker, and he was throwing his curveball a little bit more. And that was kind of during the times. Sometimes when pitchers start to experiment with new pitches, their effectiveness goes way down. It's kind of hard to both experiment and keep your effectiveness just as high, because you're trying to figure out when you're mixing it in, and then maybe your arm slot is weirder for your other pitches or whatever it is. This season, he started to rely way more on the fastball again. He's still throwing in the sinker and the changeup, but he's going back to like his old reliance on the fastball. And I got to say, something was clearly working. I mean, only 22 runs scored against him in 109 innings. So I just couldn't believe it. Like he was the best pitcher in baseball for the half year that he played. And 1, he was on Baltimore and they had a terrible season. And 2, he only played half the season, so he wasn't eligible for any of like the awards or the stat leaders or anything. But like in every metric you could find, strikeouts per inning, strikeouts to walk ratio, ERA, WHIP, whatever, it's like he was the best pitcher. So it was crazy.
That is awesome. And the tough thing about being a pitcher is, I mean, you're not playing every night, and you can only do so much for your team, especially when you only play half the season. But yeah, that's awesome. Tough that he's on the Orioles.
Yeah, they must be so excited. I mean, if he is even close to this good next year, they will have a bona fide ace. Like this is he was like Scooble Skeens.
Those are crazy numbers. Those are crazy numbers. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Anyway, enough stats to puke at you. But I
Yeah.
guess you have to also go. What are your most ridiculous stat this season?
So I've got two I want to talk about. The first one is, I guess, more of stat based, and it's Josh Naylor, who is one of
Yeah.
my favorite players to watch play the game, dude.
This is a
20
good
home
one.
runs, 30 stolen bases as a first baseman, but the numbers are impressive. And then you see what you just look at him, and as a first baseman in general, I mean, first basemans are generally not really, running
not sprinting.
types.
Yeah.
No. Dude, he is quick. His acceleration is awesome to see. He had a great season. He used to be with the Guardians for a while, and then he was with the Diamondbacks, got traded over to the Mariners. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
When they tested his sprint speed, and he is a quick guy. His acceleration is really good. His actual top sprint speed, I think they said he was only the 13th percentile. But yeah, he stole 30 plus bases. Like, that is, players are normally happy if they steal over 20.
Right.
And I guess he's just a timing god. I don't really.
Yeah, dude.
I
think
it's exactly know the explanation.
I think it's timing, and honestly, yes, sprint speed matters, like top speed. But I'm telling you that acceleration, how quick you get there, and he's got big, strong legs. There's something there. So yeah, that was the stat I wanted to talk about. The other one I wanted to bring up, which I have a fun little thing I want to do with it, is the Ohtani game where he had he struck out, three home runs, 6 shutout innings.
3 home runs,
yeah. I think I said four earlier, which and 10 strikeouts.
I wanted 4. Who knows?
It felt like it, but no, it was definitely 3. I wanted to think about what the equivalent of that would be in some other big sports. So I thought about it briefly, and in the NBA, I think if you got a quadruple double, that would feel like, in today's day and age, that would feel on par with what he did potentially.
But Wemby's probably going to do that this season, right?
If he gets 10 blocks, if he does it with 10 blocks.
He just had 9 the other night.
I think it hasn't been done since it's Oscar Robertson. It's been done, but it hasn't been done in 40 years or something. And so I think, honestly, maybe a quintuple double would do it. Gotta get 5. And then in the NFL, I related it to this, which I think, if you threw for 3 touchdowns, which is the equivalent to the number of home runs he had, and you also had a pick 6, at the very minimum a pick 6, I think if there was a player that was playing quarterback really well and then also had a phenomenal defensive play, that would maybe be the equivalent.
Yeah, it would have to be if Travis Hunter.
Okay, it's so much tougher. It's so much tougher to do as a receiver. You really you have to be, because pitching is such an isolated position. It feels like a quarterback. It would have to be a quarterback. I
think you're right. The NBA is a hard one to even compare, just because offense and defense flows. I know.
That's why I was trying to. But you can think about. In order to get a quadruple double, if you're getting there has to be a defensive stat in there.
Yeah, that'd be steals and blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, or in rebounds, So you think about rebounds are a defensive stat, and you can do it with points, assists. Honestly, you know what? Maybe I'm switching to a 5 quintuple. I think it's quintuple double. No player ever did that, because no player ever did what Shohei just did. In a way, and so you think about that, it would have to be something that's never been done before, and I think that's never been done before in basketball.
I think it's tough to compare. There's not really adjectives for it. There's been a lot of talk about it and everyone trying to understand it. And I think at some point you got to be hey, this is something we have not seen before in the sport, and that's just really fun. And there's not much more to say. But yeah, I think that's good. So last award here, our Vibes MVP. Who was the player or team that brought the best vibes? And I live in Colorado. I got to award this one to the Rockies fans, because I've been to a few Rockies games this season. This was one of at least the first half. They turned it on a little bit the second half. Still one of the worst teams in baseball. First half, they were historically one of the worst teams of all time in the MLB. And I got to tell you, Coors Field was still full every single night. There was a time they were playing the Pirates. Brenton Doyle, I think, hit a walk-off home run to win the game 17-16. The Pirates had scored 9 runs in the first inning. And when that walk-off home run went out of the park, probably the 9th inning, I want to say maybe extras, that stadium was so loud and so full of no one had left after getting scored 9 runs on in the first inning. They were all still there, and were so proud of their team, and they probably improved to like 20-81 or something ridiculous. And so I just got to give the Vibes MVP to the Rockies fans. They brought the energy, even though the team, it was a dire season for the Rockies.
Yeah, man, and it's not been good for them recently at all.
It's not been good. But I guess the fans still show up, so it's like, why change anything?
That's true. Yeah, but I think what year did you move there? You moved to Colorado in
2021. Yeah,
2021. They've been terrible that whole stretch. They've not put one good season together.
That ballpark has not full almost any game.
Dude, that's really cool. Good for the Rockies.
Good for the Rockies.
Yeah. All right, so my Vibes MVP. Gosh, it's hard not to give it to your hometown team. It's really tough. First off, Jose Rodriguez.
Ramirez.
Ramirez. It came out of my mouth and I was like, that's not right.
Something wrong there.
Yeah. But Jose Ramirez is like my go-to Vibes MVP for like the last 10 years, maybe. My God,
raise or lower the Vibes for you?
Like raised it by 1 million, dude. That's
right.
like maybe my favorite Cleveland sports moment. It's like up there with Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph with his helmet. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I have seen that one. That would not have been on my list of favorite Cleveland sports moments, but I get at least what you're trying to say.
They're few and far between. It's like 2016 Cavs, Jose Ramirez punching gosh, I can't think of his name, Kevin Anderson, and I think, yeah. And then
Tim Anderson.
Yeah, it's one of those. And then it's probably Myles Garrett.
Guy who got punched by Jose.
That's what he'll go down as, yeah. So that was cool. And then now I'm in Cincinnati, and this is I guess the first year I've been here for a full MLB season. And gosh, the fans here are super fun. It's a great atmosphere right on the river. Ellie De La Cruz the city loves him. He seems to love this city, and he's like such an electric player. Really, really cool. Really fun to watch.
Yeah. Baseball fans are cool. It's a really good. It's an easy game to convince the average person to go watch, and for the diehard fans, they're really into it as well. So it's a good. The vibes are good.
It's inherently like really nerdy too.
Exactly.
Like the way that numbers are involved in baseball is so interesting, and you can just stare at them and there's like a billion statistics, and it's by far like the sport where statistics feel like they mean the most, just because of how I think structured baseball is, I guess.
Yeah, it's very distinct actions.
Yeah.
Pitch happens, hit or not, what was the pitch? How fast is the pitch? Like,
right.
Yeah. Right. How fast the ball go now? Like there's so much crazy stuff. Alrighty, yeah, this was I think we covered everything. Sweet. If you're still here, check out some more of our videos. We both on YouTube and on Spotify. We are under the Field Guide Podcast Network. Make sure to check that out because there's more non-sports related content, but if you like sports, we got plenty more for you. And I'll see you guys in the next one.
Sweet.
I lost Riverside. Where'd it go?
Oh, just the tab.
There it is.